Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some. A man is born, he's a man of means. Then along come two, they got nothing but the genes. They got different strokes it takes, different strokes it takes, different strokes to move the world. Everybody's got a special kind of story. Everybody finds a way to shine. It don't matter that you got not a lot. So what? They'll have theirs, you'll have yours, and I'll have mine. And together we'll be fine. As it takes different strokes to move the world. Yes, it does. It takes different strokes to move the world.
We are the ones who don't know what we're fighting for. Give us a gun and send us all off to war. We are the ones who grow up in violent homes. We are the ones who don't know what's right or wrong. I know. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No more. We are the ones who don't know why we're losing score. Give them a badge so they can send us to the morgue. We are the ones who are scared to walk out the door. We are the ones who don't know what we're dying for. I know. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No. Get off his fucking neck. Let me shoot you. He can't fucking breathe. So let me shoot you. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones who are born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more.
Warning: this podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. Yesterday is gone. That's why they call it the past. Tomorrow isn't promised. That's why they call it the future. Today is a gift. That's why they call it The I'm No Joe podcast. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the first broadcast of 2025 here on the I'm No Joe podcast. I, of course, am your hostess with the mostest, the meter. Meter does many things if you're nasty. And today, like most days, I have got a glorious panel here with me, Slowbag 420 and Golf T Vapes, to get into all the shit talking, the shenanigan, the fight announcements and fuckery, and all the fun in the combat sports world you need to know about. But before we get into all that, first and foremost, gentlemen, how the hell you doing over there?
We're here. We got a couple of weeks off of vacation, and we come back to gratuitous ass shots for a main event.
Indubitably.
You certainly ain't wrong about that. That's the best we can hope for with that fucking main event. And not going to be many good fights this weekend, but we get fights back, and I'm happy about that at least.
There you go.
It was nice to get the time off, but I'm glad to be back.
Agreed. Definitely took advantage of the time off and enjoyed the break. That being said, we are back, and so are the fights. So, to kick things off around here the way we like to do, we're going to get into a little bit of news and recent events first here. Fight announcements, fight cancellations, rumor confirmations or cancellations, things that are relevant in the combat sports world we feel you guys need to know about. First and foremost here, this Saturday's card, the card that we're going to get into a little bit more just a little while later, actually has two big switch ups just in the last couple of days here. The first one, Jacoby Smith stepping in to take on Preston Parsons on 5 days notice, and then Joe Selecki stepping in on 4 days notice to take on Narulo Alayev, both going down this Saturday. So again, always love to see the guys stepping up, guys and gals rather, stepping up on short notice, provided everybody makes weight and we get both of these fights. Knock on wood. Definitely interested to see how everybody handles the short notice replacements this Saturday. That being said, moving out just a little bit going on here, January 21st will be the Bellator Dubai Champions Series event. And even though there has been all sorts of controversy, originally it was Ante Delija who was going to be stepping in, and then it was rumored to be Corey Anderson, but that contract apparently was never sent. Now we have official confirmation. Vadim Nemkov will indeed be stepping in at heavyweight to take on Tim Johnson. Definitely an interesting matchup here. Tim absolutely still has very big power, and he's shown that recently, but Vadim still is one of the fastest guys at heavyweight you're gonna see. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to see how that card shakes out. We got kind of an interesting announcement here back on the UFC side of things. Just 2 weeks from now, we will get UFC 311 with a pair of title fights to round off the first pay-per-view of the year. And we got confirmation from the UFC this week that neither title fight will have a backup fighter. I don't even remember the last time we had a title fight without someone weighing in as a backup, let alone a 2-title card with 0 backup fighters officially from the UFC. I don't know if this is early budget cutting or if them anticipating it not being the greatest show and not wanting to spend that extra money, especially with the TV rights coming up in negotiations again very soon. But it's a little weird to see the UFC not only throwing 1, but 2 title fights out and no backup fighters. I'm sure there's more to the story as we get a little closer to it, but it's interesting to see that they're going this route this early in the year. That being said, the second pay-per-view of the year, a couple weeks from now, February 9th, down in Sydney, Australia, got a pair of interesting announcements added to it here. The first one, again, unfortunately, like we just mentioned a minute ago, an injury allegedly derailed one fight, but it is being saved. Jimmy Crute now on his third opponent for that fight. This time, Rodolfo Belgato will be stepping in to take on Jimmy Crute, barring something happening to him. But the other big announcement for UFC 312 is the brother of a other certain UFC champion right now, Ilya Toporia's older brother, Alexandre Toporia, will be going on that trip down to Sydney, Australia to take on Cody Haddon for his UFC debut. Now, we've talked about it several times before ad nauseum, but I do feel it is worth mentioning. Pretty much any time we get siblings in combat sports, it almost always turns out that one of them has the gift of gab and the other one has the gift of fight, but very rarely do we see either of them have both. We've seen what Ilya Topuria is capable of in the cage, and we've seen him stumble on the mic a little bit. Let's see if his brother is the yin to the yang here, or if we might actually be looking at the more talented of the Topuria brothers, and Ilya really is the fuck up, and that could make things even more interesting because his brother's coming in at bantamweight. Ilya is a featherweight for right now, already talking about going up to lightweight because of the amount of weight that he cuts. Things could get very interesting very quickly here in the UFC. Oh yeah, that being said, late notice here just this afternoon. Despite the UFC letting him go, he absolutely found himself a new home over in karate combat. Robelis de Spagna made history with his debut over there with a 4-second knockout. Well, they're not wasting any time. They're putting him right the fuck back in there. He will be stepping in January 24th down in Miami against Marcos Bragagiao. Another seasoned guy, so we very well could have a similar result here. Definitely going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. Moving on from there, though, the third pay-per-view of the year, March 8th, from the T-Mobile Center in Las Vegas, UFC 313, got a trio of fights added to it this week. The first one, Alex Morono stepping back into the cage, taking on Carlos Leao. That should be an interesting matchup here. Morono's had an interesting run lately. The next one, excuse me, Ultimate Fighter most recent champion Marion Santos will be stepping in to take on Francis Marshall on that 313 Vegas card. And then the one that I personally am most excited about that they announced this week, Bruno Silva climbing back into the cage, taking on Joshua Van. That's going to be a fucking spectacular fight. I would bet you all the pennies in my piggy bank. 313 is shaping up to be real nice. Excuse me. That being said, a couple of non-fight announcements here to run through real quick. The first one, probably the happiest announcement that we've got in this new segment here. After 41 years, retired UFC legend Matt Hamill has finally been able to hear. The UFC's first and, to my knowledge, only deaf competitor has now got his hands on literally the world's strongest digital hearing aids and was able to hear his children's voice for the first time in his entire life. That is fucking awesome. Technology is not always evil. Yes, sometimes it gives you Skynet, but sometimes it gives you shit like that.
That's fucking cool to hear.
It was so cool to see the video of him hearing people talk to him and seeing where the voices are coming from in the room. Like, just punches you in the feels, man. It's awesome.
The only guy to ever beat John Jones.
Damn right. Oh, I'm an asshole. I don't care. That being said, we got a couple of interesting ones here in terms of test results, should we say. The first one here, Amzat Mirzakhanov has officially been given a 6-month suspension for his second violation, this time with a tainted supplement that he did turn in and they did verify was a tainted supplement, because go figure, he wasn't getting the free fucking supplements that the UFC offers all active fighters that are guaranteed clean. And look what happened. Now he popped hot. And even though he proved that it did come from a tainted supplement, he's still sitting his ass on the bench for 6 fucking months for being a dumbass and using a supplement that he couldn't verify was fucking clean. The UFC has the PI for a reason. Within the PI, they've got dietitians and they've got an organization called Thorn that provides all supplements clean and verified for free for all UFC rostered fighters. Why we still have situations like this, I don't fucking understand.
You would figure with how many people have seen people get fucked up because they're using tainted supplements, even though they're proving themselves innocent by taking a tainted supplement, that are on the UFC roster that have access to free supplements. They're not getting charged for those.
Nothing.
Free supplements because you're an active fighter on their roster. You refuse to take their supplements that are going to help you and are not tainted. How dumb are some of these fucking fighters? Like, look, I don't want to say so. We have some intelligent fighters. There are some intelligent fighters that are legitimately smart fucking people. There's a fucking doctor who had kicked somebody else into fucking next millennium. But if you're too stupid to even take the freebies that you know aren't tainted, maybe you don't deserve to be on the roster at all. And a 6-month suspension, I don't think is enough in those cases when you know you had an avenue to a safe alternative.
Yep, you chose
to be honest, that should be a minimum of a fucking year. To be honest, I'm all right with a 2-year suspension when you had the option available to you for a free supplement that you know is not tainted.
When you choose to roll the dice, knowing that you have a safe and guaranteed safe alternative for free, I agree. The punishment of 6 months, yes, it is a punishment technically, but I agree it should be much more severe. But that being said, on the opposite end of that spectrum, we did officially get confirmation this week that one Donald Cowboy Cerrone is officially back within the UFC's testing pool, and provided he can get 6 months of clean test results underneath his belt, he will officially be re-eligible to fight. He is eyeballing International Fight Week sometime in July, TBD opponent. But at this point, we talked a little bit about this before the show started. I will be excited to see if Cowboy Cerrone of old comes back. Not the cowboy that fought Connor, the cowboy that we all remember, because he's had a little bit of time off and he's had, as he said himself very openly, all of the steroids and all of the fun drugs you can get just bane fed into him for the last couple of years. And now he's got to come off of all of that and go back to clean cowboy. If we see the old cowboy in 6 months, I'll stay excited. What I'm afraid of, though, is that 6 months from now, we're going to see California raisin cowboy, and it's just not going to be anything but a nightmare until he rides back off into the sunset. I genuinely hope that I'm wrong. I don't think I am. Not on this one. I think Cowboy spent too much time living the Vida Loca on all the fucking sauce, and the body's going to come down off that hard, and it's not going to rebound well. We've seen it several times. Johnny Hendricks. Sorry, something in my throat there. We've seen it too many times. It doesn't go well. But if anybody can be the exception to the rule, we'd hope it'd be fucking Cowboys. So he is officially back in the pool with 6 months. The end of June, beginning of July will put him in eligibility. We'll see how the spring treats old Cowboy. That being said, over on the other side of the house here, PFL has actually surprisingly been listening for a change. They, on their championship $1 million card, allowed elbows in all of their championship fights. And everyone, fighters and fans alike, surprise, loved that. So they have finally taken it
a step further, and they confirmed this week officially PFL will now allow elbows in all fights going forward. They finally are starting to take the training wheels off. They've still got the tassels on their handlebars, but the training wheels are off, and PFL is wheeling down the driveway. Now, we will see how far they make it, but they are officially on their own and pedaling themselves at this point. Godspeed, little tutu soldiers. That being said,
That
go
was
ahead.
I will say, as kind of a little slight at them, those were some very expensive elbows to put in for everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But, you know, Don Davis listens to the people.
Screws the fighters.
We'll see how that plays out. Excuse me. As the 2025 PFL season rolls through and eyebrows start getting split open, and then people have to fight again 2 weeks later. That being said, though, we got to, I can't say it's necessarily strange, but I'll say it's a little out of left field announcement here this week. We got an unretirement. Damon Jackson was on a podcast this week and said that he had been thinking about it too much, and he's been in the gym 3 days a week since he retired, just like he was still active, and he thinks he needs at least one more to prove to himself that it really is time to quote unquote hang him up. I would have thought the last couple of fights of his would have been a clear enough signal, but apparently not for Damon. So he is going to take, or allegedly going to try to get one more fight and unretire and kind of just really see how things stand. I don't think that is a good idea, but I'm just an asshole with a podcast. Speaking of the other side of the house, though, we got word this week that a pair of ex-UFC folk are joining up to that new. Paige Van Zant has officially signed on to the Global Fight League as a fighter, and Cain Velasquez has officially signed on to the Global Fight League as a team manager and coach. How that is going to work out, I'm not entirely sure yet, but apparently neither is the Global Fight League, because they still don't have a confirmed single event date or full official roster or anything really more than the name yet. So we'll see how that goes, but definitely off to a rocky start for the GFL. Two more back to the UFC side of things. Words are hard live sometimes. The first one, for the first time in 21 years, with the UFC parting ways with their current broadcast partners, both of them a year and a half early on their contracts, the UFC has officially left the country of Brazil with no official broadcast for UFC. The only way for anyone in Brazil for the foreseeable future to access anything from the UFC is through UFC Fight Pass, and UFC Fight Pass only, because ESPN does not broadcast down in Brazil. They're all handled through a different network. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes loose with the UFC's broadcast deal in general here coming up in the next couple of months. We already know how big of a market specifically Brazil is for not just combat sports, but the UFC specifically. It'd be interesting to see how that one shakes loose. Unfortunately, the last one that I've got here is not so fun, but it is definitely UFC tied here. We got word this week that Dana White has officially been put on the Meta board of directors. Now, whether this has anything to do with Mark Zuckerberg trying to help Dana White integrate AI into the rankings, or Zuckerberg doing all of the touring and sitting cage side at the Apex, we don't really know. But now we know that Dana White is officially walking across the street to the other side as well. He is now going to sit on the board of directors in Meta. What that's going to mean going forward, we don't know just quite yet, but it is something that people need to be aware of. That being said, that's what I've got for news for this week. Either one of you gentlemen have anything I might have missed?
Yeah, that little slide that I was making at the PFL is actually because they changed their purse for their Grand Prix from 1 million to $500,000. So they cut that motherfucker in half, but they give everybody elbows. So, half the money to try to win it all.
That's right. They did cut the prize down, didn't they?
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
And
I
it
was
wasn't like
laughing.
it was a little cut. They cut it $500,000. That's a huge fucking lump.
Yeah, considering that their whole selling point for the entirety of their existence has been $1 million seasons.
That tells me they've been bleeding fucking money.
Yeah, $500,000 seasons just doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
No, it doesn't. Oh, we're gonna give you half a bag. Okay, sure.
Well, in that case, we will call that good for news and recent events then. That will bring us to the point where if you've been watching combat sports as long as some of us have been watching combat sports, you start to learn what you like, when it comes on, and how to watch it and where to go for it. And you start to develop a set of metaphorical blinders, if you will, lose the forest for the trees. Well, luckily for us here on the show, we have ourselves a young person that's just ever so vigilantly out there and delicately fingering the pulse of the MMA world to help keep us abreast of all the names that are going to be names before they get to be names in a little segment that we call Slows, Cans, and Contenders.
Appreciate. Oh shit. Appreciate you, brother. So start off with the trash. I mean, you could throw majority of the probably 90-95% of this card in the trash. I'm sure both of you boys would agree with that. Golf team will probably very much second that this weekend. Guaranteed trash though. Fucking Ihor Potieri. Good on Joe Selecki stepping in on the short notice, but I feel like you throw that motherfucker in the trash too. Punahale Soriano, you got to throw that kid in the trash. The Santiago Ponzinibbio, Carlston Harris fight, and the fact that that's the co-main event, right? That makes it even worse. Victoria Dudakova, Mackenzie Dern. I feel like you could throw the main event in there. We talked about the gratuitous ass shots, but that's not worthy of the main event. You could just throw a majority of this shit away. I do have some shit on the fence. Schrodinger's contender. I have two of them, female and a male. I'll put Amanda Ribas on the contender spot because I feel like she's got more potential than Dern. She obviously younger, but I feel like no matter what Dern does in this fight, there's no second chance for her to really climb back up. So there's a slight on the fence for Rivas, but the main one is Roman Kopylov. That dude had been on a few fight knockout winning streak before his loss to Fluffy Hernandez last February. He picked up a win in his last fight. Didn't get that finish. We'll see how he does this weekend, but he's got that potential still. He could bounce his way back up in the middleweight division. The true contenders, though, that I'm looking forward to this weekend, you got a few young kids in Narilo Aliyev, Jacoby Smith, and Austin Bashi. Those are three young kids I'm really looking forward to seeing how they do this week. I think they might give us some exciting moments on this card at least to clear our way through that garbage, give us some decency, be like, yes, fights. Jacoby Smith, I could easily see him getting a knockout. Austin Bashi probably going to get himself a submission victory. These kids are pretty fucking talented. Look damn good on the contender series. I'll say for Bashi too, 23 years old, coming in 13-0. The difference between a lot of people coming into the UFC nowadays, double the fucking amount of fights that they've had. So the kid's actually a little experienced for being as young as he is, having 13 fights already. I mean, we don't fully know. Having dug that deep into all those fights. Probably not the best competition, as we know. He's worked his way up a little bit as he got closer to the UFC, maybe some better fights, but now he's going to really be tested. We'll see how these young kids do. Bruno Lopez, the light heavyweight, interested in that more so. We need contenders in that. So that fight, Gadzhi Sluov in general versus Lopez, one of those fights more intrigued in than a lot of others. And Uros Medic, one of the guys not so young necessarily, but definitely has looked like he could be a badass at points. So he might throw him in the contender, one of you guys. But he was the only other thing I felt like I could pull out other than those young kids this weekend, anyways. But I'd like to hear what you boys got for your cans and contender.
This might be one of the few times where we agree on damn near everything. I don't even know where to fucking go with this card other than this is not how you ring in a new year.
Oh, yeah, that's how I felt for the past couple weeks.
Look, I'm all for gratuitous ass shots, but if I'm going to do that, I'm going to go on to Pornhub. I don't want to see it as a main event in a fucking fight. This isn't even worthy of a co-main event spot on a fucking fight night card. All it is let's sell sex to the public and pass it off as a fucking UFC fight. Because you know what Mackenzie Dern's plan always is, it's grapple, grapple, grapple. It's no more than fucking oil wrestling for her. Manhibis, yes, we've seen her knock some people out. So there is the slight possibility that you might get some sort of, oh my God, finish. But I don't foresee that fucking happening. It's just going to be a hug fest. And by that, I mean dry humping and somebody's going to get their back taken. So, yeah, main event, shit. How the fuck did Santiago Ponzinibbio and Carlton Harris trip their way into a co-main event spot? To be honest, I would rather see Chris Curtis and Roman Kopylov in that fucking co-main event spot. Or, to be honest, that fight there is good enough for it. Okay, let me rephrase how I say this. That fight is good enough on this card to be the main event. It's fucking terrible. You got guys like, I said this before the fucking show even started. How's Punahele Soriano still on the fucking roster? How? I think they're literally going, Euros, have this. Please. We want you to be a rising star. And he's had some flashes of greatness in there. He just hasn't been able to string it together. Thus the couple of losses he's had in the UFC. So, yeah.
I'm going to credit him still being on the roster to myself. The fact that I keep calling him the Poon Hunter is the only thing that's saving him.
Fair enough. Well, I would appreciate
the Poon Hunter
stop.
Soriano. It's the greatest nickname of all time. And even though he's been sucking ass, it's the only thing that's saving him.
Well, he definitely ain't sucking poon, that's for sure.
Not lately, no. He needs to get back to hunting. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, shit. But yeah, then you've got fucking... It's a shit show across the board. I mean, you brought in... The card is so bad, you had to, less quick, get this out of the way so we don't have to offer her another fight for another 6 months. Victoria Dudikova. Another one. Why are you in the UFC? Look, I get it. Pretty Russian girl. It's going to draw eyes. That's about it. The only other eyes that are going to be drawn are those extra eyes where she gets cut from Fatima Klein. As a whole, this card is fucking trash. Yeah, there's a few little things in there. Let's see. Does Jacoby Smith have what it takes? Does our other young fucking Austin Bashi have anything for us. But even like it's a stretch for me to say I'm going to enjoy Chris Curtis and Roman Kopylov. There are things I like about Chris Curtis as a fighter. There are things I like about Roman as a fighter, but neither one of them are mind blowing. Roman obviously has some fucking work to do on his game. He looked like he could be a world breaker for a minute, but then we all saw the fucking holes get blown wide the fuck open. So, I mean, you know, take everything with a grain of salt. But as a whole, I will say the biggest thing I can find on here is not fucking contenders. At best, they're fucking our Schrodinger's contenders. And that's going to be our newer guys. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say Roman Kopylov still. He's a Schrodinger's contender. If he shores up the holes in his game, he could be dangerous in middleweight. But at this point, he's just a Schrodinger's contender. We don't know if he's going to shit the bed or not. There's no actual contenders on this fucking card to me at all. None. It's a hot mess of, oh, well, we've got all these fighters on the roster. We got to offer them all fights. Oh, look, they all took them. Let's throw them all on this one fucking card. Instead of doing the right thing, which is spread this shit out over like 15 fucking cards, so we only got to deal with one piece of shit at a time. You're just going to give us all the shit at the same fucking time. I mean, was there fucking, 12 fights on this card, I think? Or 11 or 12 fights on this fucking card. I'm not even trying to count them. Fuck it. It's not worth it. It's too many pieces of shit. I'm not into 2 girls, 1 cup. Neither should you be. Let's move this along to the next fucking pay-per-view next week.
Yeah, I've got to say, I can't say that I expected the UFC to throw the first card, knowing it was a fight night card. You can't expect the first card to be pay-per-view quality, fucking banger fights top to bottom. That's just unrealistic. But I also didn't expect them to come out with the first card of the year looking realistically weaker than the card they ended the year with, which was also pretty weak. Miami needed some fucking milk for damn sure, and it didn't get it. That fucking, we're not even going to talk about Miami. That was bad, and it was last year. We're going to leave it there. But this card might actually be weaker than that card. This is, for lack of a better comparison, this card is the chips and salsa that they give you when you sit down at the restaurant, hoping that you'll get full and not actually need the whole meal when it's time to sit down and really fucking eat. Yes, there's some interesting looking things on this card. I'm very interested to see if Bashi can keep his O against Rodriguez. I am curious to see if Trey Ogden still has anything left in the tank at this point. Those tires have a lot of highway miles on them, but interested to see if there's anything left there. Like he mentioned earlier, Bruno Lopez could potentially breathe a little spark of life back into 205 that desperately fucking needs it. There's a couple of last minute short notice fights. I'm always curious to see how those play out. Realistically, the 2 fights I'm most interested on this card, Austin Bashi versus Christian Rodriguez, Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus Cesar Almeida. I have heard very, very few people talking about that. Abdul Razak Al Hassan is the definition of a hot and cold fighter. There's no gray area with that man. Either he is on fucking fire, takes 3 steps in the cage and knocks somebody the fuck out, or he doesn't remember that he's ever trained for fighting before, steps in a cage, and then runs around like he's the new guy at the gym. There really is no gray area. Cesar Almeida is not going to give him a lot of room to fuck around here. Not down at middleweight. Hassan is cut back down to middleweight. He was talking about staying at 205 for a while, but he's back down at middleweight again. Almeida's not going to give him a chance to fuck around. If he shows up, Almeida's going to have himself a hard night. But if he doesn't, Almeida's going to get himself a fucking highlight Saturday night. And I'm curious to see how that one plays out. Maybe it's because I'm a petty asshole. Maybe it's because the fight could be great. Either way, I'm curious about it. I definitely agree. The co-main event has no business being a co-main event. Period. This card, another card. No, this is a prelim caliber fight if ever there fucking was one. I honestly don't understand how the Curtis versus Kopylov fight isn't on there. That one I agree is going to be interesting as well. I think they're both a pair of contenders here because we've seen both of those gentlemen have flashes of hot and cold, but there is a little gray area for both of them. I think there's still hope for both of them, more so for Kopylov than I think for Curtis at this point, just because of Asian experience. But I'm definitely interested to see that fight more so than Ponzinibbio, the decision machine, versus Carlton Harris, who I don't know that I can remember the last time Carlton Harris has been exciting. Somehow he's in the fucking co-main event. I honestly haven't seen a whole lot of tape or anything to make me really think that the main event itself is going to go any different than the first time around did. This seems exactly like the first fight did. Mackenzie's coming in overconfident, overlooking her opponent. Meanwhile, Amanda Ribas has been in the fucking gym, grinding, training, getting ready, knowing that something like this could come back around because Mackenzie got herself a little hot streak after the first time Amanda beat her. If Amanda comes in now, she can sweep all that fucking thunder up and try and put it to good use. If she fucks up, though, she's just going to be a springboard for Mackenzie and the UFC's push that they've been trying to give her. Interesting for a first UFC card of the year, but I guess the old saying goes, something's better than nothing.
That's for damn sure, right? I kind of feel that way and don't at the same time. I feel like we could skip this week and I'd be fine. Next week will be fun.
So
It's
you're
actually
telling me
going to
I
be a
should have
decent
just.
card next week.
So you're saying I should have skipped this meeting, huh? Damn it.
Well, no, they should have given us some good shit, right? They shouldn't fuck us around. Especially, you would think this year they would take these fight nights more serious, actually give better matchups because this is the TV
Contract
deal
deal.
year. Like, if you have a lot of these lackluster fucking cards, what the hell do you expect? Some fucking company is going to be like, oh, yeah, we want to give you billions upon billions because you put on shit fights half of the year. And nobody buys your pay-per-views. Everybody steals them.
You know, I have a bit of an epiphany here, and maybe it's just me, but the UFC and the way that they're selling this to companies is they're basically pulling the Showtime boxing thing where there was a fight every fucking weekend. They weren't always good, but there was a fight every weekend. That's kind of what the UFC is doing. And look how that turned out for fucking boxing and Showtime. I'm just saying, maybe they need to rethink this. Because, look, as much as I love talking every week about MMA, I miss the days of going, this is a fucking card. At least fucking, you might get 2 cards a month if you were lucky. Most of the time it was 1 here, 2 there, 1 here, 2 there. But you knew you were going to get fucking good main events. They weren't all pay-per-views every month, but you were getting good solid cards, and it's just not the case anymore. I mean, look, I'm all for fighters getting better and getting to that level where I go, I'm fucking excited about it, but you can't throw all the trash on one fucking card and expect anybody to get excited. It just doesn't work that way. The only person who gets fucking excited about big piles of trash are fucking raccoons and fucking hungry bears. I am neither of those.
Appreciate you, boys.
Thank you very much, sir. Much appreciated. So, before I forget, we're going to go on with the combat sports menu for the weekend because, yes, we do run the show predominantly around the UFC schedule, but that's because pretty much every other combat sports organization also runs their calendar around the UFC schedule. So just to let people know, there is much more than just the UFC going on this weekend. So to start things off for this weekend, if you need a little punchy-kicky in your life, tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Standard, over on Amazon Prime, One Championship Fight Night 27, Tang versus Abdulayev. Let's see, this has 5 MMA fights on it, 1 submission grappling, and then 4 of those Muay Thai and 4-ounce MMA gloves that I fucking love. John Lineker will be on this goddamn card. There will be half a dozen different fighters that even the casuals will recognize here. The hardcores are going to know probably half this card. Pretty good lineup to be having on Amazon Prime for damn sure for Friday night. That being said, kicking off just a little bit later, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central Standard. This one over on Fight Pass, live from Lemoore, California here. LFA 199, one of our favorite UFC feeder organizations. Generally, when guys and gals do great in these organizations, title level or multiple wins stacks up, they generally get called up to the big leagues here. So if you need a little late Friday night combat and you don't need to know what the hell is going on, this would be a great card to watch. Hardcores will still recognize a couple of names here and there, but all in all, just some good Friday night fights. That, however, will bring us over to Saturday afternoon. This one, an early afternoon card starting at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time from the greatest Apex in Las Vegas. UFC Vegas 101 from the Apex goes down Saturday afternoon. So with that being said, that will bring us to the only segment of the show that does require its own disclaimer. So, if you will, Tapology.com does not in any way, shape, or form support, sponsor, or endorse the ImNoJo podcast. Yet. That being said, what they do offer is the option for you to go onto their site, create a free account, and make fantasy-style MMA picks like we do here on the show. They even let you make groups, so we made one. We call it ImNoBookie, all one word, or Group 965, however you need to find it. The group is open to the public. You are welcome and encouraged. Make yourself an account, join the group, let us know who the hell you are, and we'll hold your picks accountable with our picks in a little segment that we like to call Tapology with TJ.
All right. Now, I don't remember if I did cover the last fight night out when we did our year-end review thing. I don't think that I did. So we're going to cover the last one that was available to us at the time, which was a lackluster co-main event in the Colby Covington and Joaquin Buckley fucking thing. And I say lackluster loosely, that Colby obviously didn't show up and made Buckley look way too fucking good. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. Surprisingly enough, I said it at our end of year. Our sleeper in the fucking new picks, old Nick Boone, taking it home this week. Fucking 10 of 13 correct, 655 points. The meter himself wasn't far behind him with 9 of 13 and 630 points, but that extra fucking pick correct was the difference maker there. And that dude's a sleeper. He really is. Now, to everyone in the group's credit, I want to make this very clear. Everybody was at least 50% or better on their picks. So we were at 500 or better. What's crazy about this is our bottom spot. Vindog takes it home with 8 of 13 fucking correct. Technically, he's only 2 off the leader. The problem with that is he just couldn't get a fucking decision or a perfect or anything to save his fucking life. Where Don only got 7 of 13 and outpointed him by 15 fucking points because he had 1 perfect pick in there. And that was the difference maker. That 1 perfect pick was that 15 points he fucking needed because he got 2 semi-perfects, whereas then he only got 1 semi-perfect. Otherwise, they were pretty even across the board. But getting more picks correct doesn't always mean more points. Unfortunately, I would like to say that this is a shared dick tripping moment. I think what happened was Don cheated and fucking shoved Vinny out and made him trip over his own dick. And so I think there may be a need for instant replay in some of these categories to make sure nobody's cheating, and maybe somebody needs to get involved here and do a little deeper digging there to figure out why that's happening. But we'll leave that up to the commission. That's not my job. So, if you didn't know, Tapology is fucking free. You can create an account for free. It's free to make picks. I know you motherfuckers like free shit because you're listening to us for free. Whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on fucking any of the audio platform streaming podcast of choice of your whichever one it is you choose, doesn't matter. Come join us over on Tapology because it's free. ImNoBookie, group 965. Let us know who you are if you want to be included in being talked about. Now, if you notice, I don't talk about all of us. I only cover the top and the bottom. We don't got all fucking knife. That's why. But, we'll tell you when you do good or when you shit the bed, or if you just want to join the group to see where you fit in and you don't want to tell us who you are, that's perfectly fine as well. But you better figure out who everybody's names are on here because I don't generally use them. I just call people as their actual name. Oh, with all that being said, come on over and join us. The last thing we need to check out here before we move on from Tapology is our end of year Grand Prix. And I say end of year loosely because it is bleeding into the new year. With I think we've got 4 events left. We've got this weekend 311, the February 1st card, and the February 8th card in UFC 312 is left. So there is only 4. Right now, as it stands, Donna is still ruling the roost. Sitting at 3,910 points. I'm almost 300 points behind her. Actually, no, I am 305 points behind her. Excuse me, sitting in the 2 spot at 3,605. Christian sitting in the 3 spot at 3,570. So there's a lot of room for movement there. Meters not far behind either at 3,270. Vindog is still beating out Don, even though he lost this week at 2,960. Don is sitting 40 points behind him at 2,920. Unfortunately, I will say right now, based on those points alone, there's very little chance of either one of those two taking the overall in the Grand Prix. I think between 4th spot and up in our Grand Prix right now, it's anybody's game. Granted, Donna does have a pretty commanding lead over everyone, but that doesn't mean she can't shit the bed in the next 4 weeks, which I'm really kind of hoping is the case. But we'll see. And to be honest, I'm afraid of the next Grand Prix event when we get Nick in here, because the way Nick has been picking since he's joined the group is fucking ridiculous. We're going to have a tough time with him. But I like that. Give us a little bit of fucking motivation to pick better. But that's where we're standing in the Grand Prix right now. If you want to join, all you got to do, let us know who you are, create a free account, join our group, and then we'll send you an invite for the Grand Prix. That's how that works. But now, on to more important things. The shit show that is this weekend's betting lines for UFC Fight Night 101, January 11th. There are some pretty fucking wide odds on this. A lot of that has to do with the last minute changes and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover some of the mediocre odds and then hit the bigger, wider odds. And then we'll also, of course, do the co-main and main, even though I really don't want to because they really don't seem like a co-main and main, but that's kind of the way I run it. So one of those middle of the road odds here. You got Jacoby Smith and Preston Parsons, which, like I said, not fucking excited about it all. The best part of that is going to see how Preston Parsons does, or excuse me, Jacoby Smith does, and if he is going to be that new guy on the roster. According to the odds makers right now, they think he might be that new guy, sitting at a minus 550 for Jacoby Smith. Preston Parsons is a plus 400 underdog. So it kind of fucking adds up that he might be the new hot ticket. And you've got I'm gonna fuck these names up because it's just the way this works, especially when they're people I'm not excited. Narulo Aliv and Joe Selecki sitting on the card here. We've got Murillo coming in as a minus 650 favorite over a plus 475 in Joe Selecki, which makes sense. Joe Selecki's coming in on pretty goddamn short notice on this fight. So you don't expect a whole lot to come out of that. You also have the another one that's pretty close in wider odds there. The Ihor I can't fucking talk. Pateria and fucking Marco Tulio Silva. Got Ihor coming in as a plus 400 fucking underdog. Marco coming in as a minus 550 favorite. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense because Ihor has been fucking pretty cold as of lately. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for people managing their own governments and not being taken over by tyrannical assholes. But you got to fight better than that if you're from fucking Ukraine to scare anybody. I'm just saying. There's a reason why you're fucking sitting as an underdog right now. The widest odds on the card go to a fight that I don't even want to talk about, but I have to because it's wide odds. So we're going to talk about it for a second. Fatima Klein and Victoria Dudakova. They've got Fatima Klein coming in as a minus 1,000 favorite over a plus 625 underdog in Victoria Dudakova. That's some pretty wide fucking odds there. Just saying. Now, that being the widest, I'm gonna do the due diligence here, co-main and main. Our lackluster co-main and Santiago Ponzinibbio and Carlson fucking Harris. Got Harris coming in as a plus 120 underdog, Ponzinibbio minus 145. Basically a coin flip. Nobody cares. Moving on. For our main event in gratuitous ass shots, for you sick puppies out there, we got Amanda Hebus and Mackenzie Dern. We got Hebus coming in as a minus 200 favorite over Dern in a plus 165 underdog. A little bit more lopsided in a coin flip, but not by much. Still not worth betting on. If you're betting on whose titty's going to pop out or whose ass is going to eat their shorts first, those might be the side bets you want to make in this case, because those are going to be the ones with the wider odds. But makes me feel like an asshole saying that it's just a fucking gratuitous ass shot fucking main event, but that's how I feel about the fight. It's not exciting. There's nothing exciting about that fight to me. But that's where they sit. So now, as a disclaimer, I'm looking at the odds from BetMGM. Odds where you look may differ. So if you're planning on making any bets, make sure you're looking where you're betting on what their odd lines are. They're different. DraftKings is going to be different than fucking Caesars or FanDuel or anything like that. So just know that all of those odds are subject to change based on who your fucking things are. And they will continue to change up until fight time and through fight time, because there are still some places that will let you bet during the fight for finishes. Does it go over 2 rounds, under 2 rounds, those kind of things. So just know that they can change based on where you're looking. But then we'll see next week how everybody does on Tapology, which I'm expecting everybody to do miserably fucking terrible, just like all of the fights. Because, when they're shitty like this, God only knows what could happen.
Thank you very much, sir. Much appreciated. So, with that being said, that will be just about all we have got for this particular episode. But as is usually the case when we wrap things up around here, that is not the end of the fun, because tomorrow morning and pretty much every Friday, this gentleman, wait, no, is he over here? No, yeah, no, he is over here. this gentleman, no, he's over there. This gentleman over here and his other half dropped their podcast, the Slow Bake and Contemplate podcast, over on Spreaker.com. Links to their podcast and their socials and their very own channel over on the ImNoJoe Discord server, all down in the description below, no matter where you're listening to or watching this. So drop over there and tell them how awesome they are.
Appreciate you, boys. And fun never fucking stops. You just had some fun last night. You gotta make sure every Wednesday night you hop in fucking Foggy Fairway over there on Golf T Vape's YouTube channel. You pop in if you want to learn some mixes or some fucking recipes on your vapes, any tips, tricks, whatnot. And just hang out, show some love, have a good fucking time. And make sure you check out all of the rest of his socials and everything down below in the description as well.
Thank you, brother. And all that being said, there is going to be some downtime this month and next month because we're only getting 2 cards for the next 2 months, for each month, which is all right. That gives us a little bit of nappy time on Thursdays. Maybe we'll get some better cards. With that being said, with all of that downtime, if you didn't know, Meter does many things. A lot of many things when you think about it. If you go down below and hit the link trees, one of them being Meter does many things, the other link tree being ImNoJoe. Click on either one of those two. It will take you to all of the many things that the Meter does do to kill all of the downtime in between the fights and no kicky punchy talk. So, there you have it. Spend your time wisely. Enjoy it.
Thank you very much, sir. And yeah, there are even more things being added to the many things that I already do. There are things in the works right now that will be unveiled later on this month. The many things that I do will be increasing. Once again, I have got more things on the plate and more plates to juggle. So there are more things coming for the ImNoJoe channel. There are more things coming for the Meter Does Many Things channel. There are just more things in general in 2025. So we want you to stick around and have some of the fun with us. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure your notifications are turned on. Your little bell is rung wherever you are picking this up, because we do this show pretty much every Thursday that there are fights to talk about. We do it live here on youtube.com/at ImNoJoe, 9:30-ish Central Standard Time. If you can't make it live, we leave the replays up. But if that's not your thing, I understand. We own mirrors as well. Fret not. The week after the show goes live, we put the all audio version up, and that goes out to all audio consumption platforms of choice from anchor.fm/ImNoJoe. You can get it through Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can pick up the audio version of that as well. So if you like what we do, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on your notifications and all that good stuff. Smash that like button. That's supposed to do something for you YouTube people. I don't know if it does or not, but if it does, ding, ding. That being said, on the opposite side of that coin, if you don't like what we get up to around here, first and foremost, what the fuck are you still doing this deep into a podcast you didn't enjoy? Give it a thumbs down and go fuck yourself. We won't even dispute it. That being said, that is all we've got for this particular episode. So until next time, boys and girls, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kicks were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times.